There's a ton of noise out there. So how do you get decision makers to pay attention to your brand? Start a podcast and invite your ideal clients to be guests on your show. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm James Carberry.
And I'm Jonathan Green.
Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. We are here today with Kira Mondrus. She is the CMO at QASymphony. Kira, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you.
I'm really excited to chat with you today, Kira. We're going to be talking about the role of perpetual demand generation to fuel fast growth. But before we get into that, Kira, I'd love for our listeners to have a little bit of context around who you are and who you're with. And so could you tell us a little bit about QASymphony and what you and your team are up to over there?
Sure, would love to. So QASymphony is an Atlanta-based SaaS company. We help enterprises develop high-quality software faster and help them with speed to market. We really want to have our customers be able to prioritize quality in development, and we offer testing solutions essentially to help them do that. We have experienced phenomenal growth. I think our year over year was 113% this past year, and definitely a lot of exciting things going on. And I'm a newbie. I've only been with the company for about 4 months.
Love it. Wonderful, Kira. So I want to just dive right into this idea because it's not something we've ever talked about before on the show. And I think our listeners are going to get a ton of value out of this. So, in talking about this role of perpetual demand gen, to get started, kind of what do you mean by that whenever you say that? Kind of walk us through your thinking behind just the phrase perpetual demand gen.
So what I mean by that, really, it is a demand gen engine that is always on, it is always running, and it is designed to engage with buyers at a time when they are ready to, engage with a vendor and to be able to help progress them through their buyer journey. And really, the big difference, I would say, with perpetual demand gen and kind of more traditional marketing is, I grew up doing kind of time-bound campaigns, right? Getting together with my marketing team and saying, okay, what are we going to do in Q1? What should our theme be for Q2? And you go out and you build all this stuff and you run it and then you take it off the shelf and you put the next thing up. And the flaw in that approach really is that, what happens when your target audience isn't ready to talk about the topic that you want to talk about, right? I mean, that's a very vendor-centric approach rather than a buyer-centric approach. And, I think you can relate to that as a consumer. If you have a flat tire, you want to, you're probably interested to see where the tire deals are. Mm-hmm. But if you're not getting marketed to or unable to find that information at the time that you have that need, that's definitely a lost opportunity for some of those vendors out there that may only be promoting their tire deals, in Q1 and then moving on to something in Q2.
Got it. So, Kira, do you have multiple, in essence, it's not, it's not really a campaign at all, right? Because there's not really an end date. Do you have different types of perpetual, I don't know, I guess I don't want to say campaign, but like perpetual messaging, or are there different types of things that you guys are running at all times based on, what you've found to be true about your buyers?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I think of the word campaign, to me, really that's the message, right? It's not necessarily the set of tactics that supports it, but it's the message. And so the way that this really works is you have to be really, really buyer-centric and understand who are your personas. So it really starts with that persona work and understanding what their buyer journey looks like. And by being able to do that, you find out a lot about the types of things that are top of mind for them, throughout that journey, and the questions that they need to have addressed at every stage. And with that, you're able to deliver a variety of content items that help address those questions.
Oh.
And that's the stuff that is always up and running. And, when I say content, I could mean a white paper or a webinar, but content is also, it's the event. It's any interaction that we put in front of that buyer.
Okay.
And you want to be able to deliver it in a very integrated fashion. So it's delivered through a variety of different tactics. So you can use outbound, email. Your website is a very important hub for people to come into and to be able to nurture them forward with the relevant messaging. Obviously, search. You also want to get involved with a variety of different digital third-party media sites to help promote the message. It's the messaging that you convey at trade shows or even the events that you host. So it really is a fully integrated go-to-market utilizing a variety of messages. And you can learn a lot about your buyer by the content that they consume. So, for example, if someone is searching for, let's say, an RFP toolkit, you can pretty quickly guess that they're much further down their buyer journey, and then you can interact with them in a way that nurtures them forward rather than, taking them back to educate them about a problem that they may have.
Yeah, that makes sense. So is that to dive deeper into this idea of having an intimate understanding of your buyer, obviously looking at the type of content that they're consuming is a big indicator of that. Are there other things that you guys have done at QASymphony to help your team understand, where the buyer is in their kind of buying cycle, I guess, and just understand more characteristics of them that help you guys then go back and create more content that you put into your perpetual demand gen system?
Yeah, there's actually a couple things that all come together. So in order to do this effectively, we use progressive profiling, and it is, each type of questionnaire, if you will, form is aligned to content which represents a different stage of the buyer journey. So very early on, we ask very few questions. But as the buyer progresses and engages with content that is much lower funnel stage, we start asking them more questions around their pains and needs and time frame and such. Depending on which questions are answered in the forms, we are able to tell where that individual is within the buyer journey or within the lead stage. And the way that we work, we only submit or assign leads to our sales team once they have gone through the entire, that they've indicated that they really are ready to speak to someone. They're highly, highly qualified. But if our sellers are looking, taking an account-based approach and want to go in there and take a look at their target account and see, hey, who's been interacting, what are they engaging with, they're able to tell where they are, what lead stage the individual's in based on the types of interactions that they would have had with the program. And I think the second part of your question was adding content and optimizing. So as this engine runs, we're able to get a lot of insight on, what's working, what's not, what's working for a certain persona or a certain stage. And with that, we, either pull stuff or add stuff or tweak stuff. So it's an ongoing process. But we no longer, sit down and say, okay, this quarter I'm going to have to create 10 new pieces because there really shouldn't be a need for that.
Got it. All right. So Kira, if somebody hasn't done this before, they've thought about it, the old way, in, okay, what Q1, what's our theme going to be? Let's, create content for this campaign. What's Q2, Q3, start all back over again, the next year. And they want to roll out something, like this. How do they build that out? How do they get started down this path that you're explaining? Well,
I will not lie and pretend that I've done this myself. This is actually the second company that I'm rolling out a perpetual engine in. And in both cases, we did form a partnership with a demand gen consultancy to help us get through this.
Got it.
And really the reason for that has to do with not only their expertise, but also just time to market and to be able to, as you can imagine, it's a huge program to lift. But I would say that, even if you're not able to get, a really strong partner to come in and help you out, I think the first place that you start is with the persona, understanding who are the buyers, who are the influencers, and really getting a deep understanding of the buyer persona and being able to map out the buyer journey and start with creating really great, relevant content for those people.
Makes perfect sense. Kira, this has been fantastic. I'm really appreciative of your time and coming on and explaining this to our listeners. If there's somebody listening that wants to stay connected with you or they want to learn more about QASymphony, what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
Reach out on LinkedIn or Twitter. Kira Mondrus is my handle, so I'm pretty easy to locate.
Love it. Awesome, Kira. And then folks can just go to QASymphony.com. Is that right?
That's right.
Wonderful. All right. So again, Kira, thank you so much for your time this morning. Really excited to get this live and excited to share your wisdom with our listeners.
Well, thank you for having me. Have a great day.
There are lots of ways to build a community, and we've chosen to build the B2B growth community through this podcast. But because of the way podcasts work, it's really hard to engage with our listeners. And without engagement, it's tough to build a great community. So here's what we've decided to do. We're organizing small dinners across the country with our listeners and guests. No sales pitches, no agenda, just great conversations with like-minded people. We'll talk business, we'll talk family, we'll talk goals and dreams. We'll build friendships. So if you'd like to be a part of a B2B growth dinner in a city near you, go to b2bgrowthdinners.com. That's b2bgrowthdinners.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.